Hello everybody, I have my coffee here, and today we're going to be talking about makeup trends that I think will be a thing in 2020. I know that we are very much in 2020 right now, and I kind of wanted to film this video and post it like at the beginning of January. That's why I pre-filmed it in like the middle of December, but then here's a fun story. I'll put a timestamp if you want to skip to the meat of the video. I basically went and did a photo shoot with somebody. Usually when I do a photo shoot, I wipe the memory card and or transfer files from my memory card to my external hard drive where I keep all my backups and everything else important. And I was on the photo shoot and I had realized I did not do that. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, this looks like a video that I already published that I don't need to keep the raw footage of. So I deleted that file, and then I was like, oh wait, that was a video that I haven't even edited yet. So I deleted the raw file of a perfectly good video, this video actually, and I was like kind of wrestling with the idea of whether or not I should actually film this video because it's been such a long time since the middle of December. It feels like that anyway. And I decided to just film it because I still have like the bullet points I wanted to put in the video, and I still like this concept, I still like this idea. But if you're interested in seeing more of my channel, I would suggest checking it out down below. I post videos several times a week, and on this channel we talk about makeup trends, makeup artistry. I like to comment on the industry, and I also like to talk a lot about consumerism, which is a topic that I've been delving into a lot recently. So I post several times a week on this channel, but if you're interested in seeing even more content from me, I would suggest you check out my Instagram, which is MUA, and I'll put it on the screen, I think. Hopefully I'll remember. And it's also down below as always. I post makeup photos on there of my very colorful makeup looks, and I also post IGTV colorful makeup tutorials of my looks as well. Something that I think will be a huge trend, especially as we move forward into spring of 2020, would be colorful liners, specifically those that come in liquid, pen, or gel format. Though I do think that liquid and pen liners will be a pretty big thing, mainly because I do identify that as a hole in the market. We haven't necessarily seen a lot of really great colorful liner options on the market. And I have noticed that you do have people on Instagram try and do this colorful liner trend. And I find that a really good way to sort of estimate what's going to be coming out soon is by looking on Instagram, because that is exactly what brands are doing. They are, in a sense, crowdsourcing and trying to produce what people really want. And a great way to do that is by looking on social media and on Instagram. So a good indicator of what's going to come out is by seeing what people are wearing, seeing how they're wearing it. And I have been seeing for several months a lot of really beautiful looks created with colorful liners. And interestingly enough, there are only a few brands that have been releasing successfully formulated versions of colorful liners so far, and I think that a lot of other brands, specifically more mainstream brands, will be latching onto this trend and will be attempting to release or to populate more colorful liner options. So I think that that's going to be a huge thing, especially for the springtime. Something else that I think will be a pretty significant trend would be colorful blushes. And I'm talking about blushes that have a little bit more of an unusual look to them, blushes that might be a little bit more luminous, blushes that might even be a little bit duochrome, blushes that come in unconventional colors and textures and formulas, because I think that blushes for a long time have been considered to be a very classic, a somewhat cookie cutter version of a makeup product. But I think the more you populate the beauty space with product and the more you, I'd say, saturate the industry with new releases, it becomes even more so important for makeup brands to look very different from their competition, to release products that are new, products that are haven't been done before. And I think that a brand that really does this, an indie brand of course, that really does this quite well would be Likely Makeup, created by It's Likely Makeup, who is an influencer that I absolutely love. She has been releasing these blush palettes, and they have like these really unconventional colors in them, and a whole bunch of people who have been fans of hers, and even people who are doing makeup in general have been using these palettes all over their face and absolutely loving it. They're an indie brand, of course, but they're definitely one of the first more recognizable indie brands, I would say, to come out with really innovative blush colors when nobody else is really doing it yet. And I think that we will definitely be seeing more of that in 2020, if not 2021. Something else that I think will be a big trend would be yellow. Yellow has slowly but surely been creeping up on us. When it comes to eyeshadow specifically, I think ColourPop really hit the mark last year when they released the Aha Honey palette, which was a monochromatic yellow palette. So that was the first monochromatic palette that we saw coming from like a very noteworthy brand, because of course there are examples of indie brands that have been doing yellow palettes, but this was the first time that we had a very recognizable brand, a very noteworthy brand like ColourPop release a monochromatic yellow palette, and of course it was met with a lot of hype. So I think that this is just the beginning. I think that we will definitely be seeing yellow come through in a lot of other different makeup categories as well. Yellow does tend to be a little bit of a difficult color to formulate though because of what goes into it, but I would think that brands will be trying to improve their yellow formulas. Brands will be trying to experiment with it more and hopefully come out with more successful formulations of a color that really looks absolutely beautiful on almost anyone. And I'm excited to see more brands come out with yellow color schemes, with yellow themed products. I do remember Jay Kissa, another makeup influencer, release this monochromatic yellow look that she did with yellow face makeup, with I think yellow eyeshadow. I think that we'll be seeing more of that in 2020, most definitely. Something else that I think is going to be big this year would be pastels. Morphe just released their Icy palette that is supposed to be comprised of pastel shades. If you watch one of my recent Will I Buys, you would see that I don't necessarily agree that it's a successfully executed pastel palette, but because there are some jewel tones in there, there are some tones in there that make it not look as pastel as it could have looked. But I think that Morphe is a very powerful player in the makeup world right now. Morphe is most certainly not the first brand to come out with a pastel palette. There are definitely other brands, indie brands specifically, that have been launching pastel themed color schemes throughout 2019, but in 2020 I think that we'll be seeing a mainstream surge of pastel makeup. I think that we'll definitely be seeing a lot of pastel this year. You guys know my opinions on Morphe. They're definitely not the most favorable. I don't consider them to be my favorite brand. I really like some of their products, of course, but I will be the first to say that Morphe has a way of really setting trends, or really solidifying trends rather. The Morphe 350 is just an example. If you remember that super warm tone color scheme, that palette helped really solidify the whole warm tones trend. That was a thing for many years, and in a way it still is to some people, but I think that similarly pastel is also going to be a huge thing this year, and I'm very excited to see more formulas come out that are pastel themed. I definitely think that nostalgia is going to play an even bigger part in makeup this year, in makeup releases. Nostalgia is always a little bit of an interesting thing to talk about, because I think that nostalgia is definitely a marketing tactic implemented by brands to raise makeup sales. This is something that has been done pretty successfully by brands such as ColourPop, for instance, who have been releasing a lot of Disney themed collections that are very much nostalgia oriented. But I'd also really like to touch on Wet n Wild as well. They released a Miss Pac-Man collection, or was it a Pac-Man collection? And that was very nostalgia based, and that was a limited edition collection that actually seemed to do pretty well. I mean, I don't think that people are talking about it now, but I definitely think that around the time that it launched, it was definitely a collection that was talked about quite favorably by people that specifically really had fond memories associated with Pac-Man. So I think that we will definitely be seeing brands try to reach more consumers by implementing themes of nostalgia in their makeup collections. It's a similar concept to brands really trying to release a lot of food-themed makeup, even though now I think that food-themed makeup is definitely going to go on the decline. I think that personally, from what I can see, people have been getting a little bit just tired of seeing food makeup. Of course, I might be wrong, but I definitely think that food makeup had its moment in 2019. Now I think it's definitely going to be all about the nostalgia. I think that we'll definitely be seeing brands try and focus a little bit more on nostalgia. I see 80s being like a theme that we will be associating with makeup launches this year, and throughout 2019 we definitely did see indie brands release 80s themed palettes, 90s, early 2000s, that sort of thing, and I think that will definitely be picked up by mainstream brands in 2020 as they also try to touch on that nostalgia as well. So I think that we'll definitely be seeing nostalgia in the form of specific themes, but I think that we will also be seeing time periods be used as nostalgia inspiration as well. I definitely think that we'll be seeing a lot more mini launches this year, specifically in the form of palettes. ColourPop did really well last year with releasing their monochromatic palettes with the 9 pans, but now we're seeing more and more brands releasing more mini palettes. Fenty is one of them with their 6-pan palettes that they released. Juvia's Place is yet another. They have been releasing more mini palettes as well with 6 pans. I think that mini palettes as a concept, in my opinion, are more fun than larger palettes because you are getting a few colors in there. They tend to be very curated. Usually there are more different options for whatever your makeup preferences might be, and also they tend to be less expensive than larger palettes. Probably more expensive if you break it down by cost per pan, but overall the palette is less expensive than larger makeup palettes, and they also take up a lot less room. And since we've all realized how big our makeup collections tend to get, I think that's also really beneficial. Something that I think also will be a huge trend would be sustainability. And I think that sustainability will continue to be used as a marketing tactic, but I think it will also be used as a theme for makeup products in general. And I'm curious to see how brands will choose to implement sustainability in their own practices. I look forward to seeing more brands come out as cruelty-free. I also look forward to more brands hopefully being a little bit more aware of their packaging and of their carbon footprint. Climate change is most certainly not slowing down, and with social media and the internet, we are all becoming increasingly more aware of our carbon footprint, of what consumerism is doing to the planet, and brands will definitely have to alter their practices in keeping with where the overall trends are going. Because I think that now more than ever, sustainability is becoming something we are slowly but surely becoming more interested in, and brands will definitely be changing what they're doing to reflect that as well. Something that I also would love to see would be the implementation of synthetic mica. Now, mica has been a talking point for a little bit this year, and this was mostly around the Jaclyn Hill highlighters launch. Mica was introduced as a topic that people were talking a lot about because Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics had mica in the highlighters, and it was kind of irritating because a lot of people were really vilifying Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics for having mica in that highlighter when really almost every other brand uses mica, naturally sourced mica, in their products. In fact, most of my collection has makeup that includes naturally sourced mica. Now, what is the big deal about naturally sourced mica? Well, it has to do with the practices surrounding the mining of it. Mica is an ingredient that enables makeup to have like that sort of like shimmery finish. It is essentially what makes makeup shimmer and shine, and it's a really beautiful ingredient in that way. However, a lot of mica is sourced by young child laborers in terribly unsafe conditions. A lot of mica tends to come from India, and in India it's very difficult to track what practices are being used, who is using the right practices with mining mica, and in many cases you have young children in the mines working in terribly unsafe conditions, getting injured, dying as a result of mining mica. And that is something that we are all responsible for, and that is also something that brands are responsible for. There is an alternative to naturally sourced mica though. It is synthetically produced mica, and there are a handful of brands that have been using synthetically produced mica, and the benefit of it is that you don't have the side effect of putting other human lives at risk, and at the same time that mica does tend to be a lot more shiny, so essentially it does up the shine factor in the cosmetics that you put it in. So in a sense, it works better than naturally sourced mica, but it's still a process to try and get a whole bunch of brands to change their formulas and agree to go with synthetically produced mica. So I hope, this is my hope, that in 2020 we'll be seeing more brands do just that. Change their formulas and change their practices to try and really make sure that they are sourcing their mica from a lab rather than from the lives of young children. Essentially. This video is already so long, so I'm just going to stop it right here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. Let me know what you think of these makeup trends. Let me know if you have any trend predictions of your own for 2020. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.